Hello everyone, this is Jason with ShySnake with our bi-weekly update video. And I wanted to go through some of the things that we're working on while getting ready for early access. So I'm just going to hop right in. I'm going to load a save game and take us right to the base. One of the things we just finished implementing is the load and save system for the game. So here we are at the base, and I'm going to run over and run to this table. This isn't the final table, but the UI is in pretty good shape at this point. Click on it. So what you're seeing here is the list of all the characters in the squad. And this will be how you interact and maintain your squad while you're at the base. So you can see on the right you can actually assign different people training. For instance, if we didn't want Wolf working on rifles, we could set him to something else. Let's just pick pistols for the purpose of this. And that's how you manage your character's training. So one of the other things we've worked on, and you'll see down here in the corner, we have this advance to next day button. So while you're at the base, you can set training routines for all your characters in your party. And they will automatically train those skills, assuming they're healthy. If they're injured, their training rate will be reduced possibly to 0 until they heal up. And this will also apply to any characters that aren't on a mission when you're on a mission. So if you grab your commander and you take a couple of characters with you, you're obviously leaving several back at the base, and time is still going to elapse there. So you're not forced to take everyone on a mission for them to continue making progress on the skills they need. And it's possible even that you feel a character needs certain skills before you take them on a mission. And that way you can set them here and get them whatever you think is appropriate. And then when they're ready to your standards, you take them. And in the middle column, you'll also see it says healthy and available. This is a save right after I created the character, so no one's been on a mission yet. But if you come back injured, you'll see their injury status there. It will likely say unavailable for any significant injury. The other reason it would say unavailable is early in the game, when you still don't have access to the entire party, members of the party that are not yet available will be listed here, along with the reason for that. And if you want some extra information, you can click on View and actually look at the character in more detail. So this is Marguerite, and the specialty there is obviously based around intelligence, but you can see the different attributes. Also, you can look through all their skills that they have. Again, very early on, this is as would be loaded in a brand new game. And then you can see the genetic modifications. And at the base, this is also where you would improve or add modifications to characters as you get them available. So you will start with 4 implants available. The odds are most people are going to place those for their commander, but you could in theory assign them to other characters also. So I'll exit this. So that gives you an idea how you're going to maintain your party at the base. So now I'll go on and talk about equipment for missions. So I'm going to run over to our mission desk. I'll just walk or jog over here. And you can see Nuri just patiently waiting over by the desk. We could talk to her, but that's not really the point of the video. So when I look through the various missions, you can see some of them have additional character slots. So let's grab an additional character here. Let's take Ivan. And then I can go to the Equipment tab. And this is something we've worked on. We're going to have new backgrounds for the icons coming up to give them a little more contrast, but those just aren't quite ready yet. So when you're preparing for a mission, one of the decisions we made is, since you're at a military base, we didn't feel it's correct for the players to be paying for their weapons. If you can imagine yourself as a soldier in the army, they don't ask you to buy the rifle you're going to go into the field with. So we do the same thing. We treat this like a military installation. So you can pick the equipment you want and load your character with it. And that's simply drag and drop. And you can do that for each of the characters going on the mission. So the base will be restocked if by some chance you manage to use up all the equipment in your base inventory. It will get replenished over time, but that is not something that you should really have to worry about is the player, because you are part of a larger organization and theoretically you have logistics people dealing with those problems for you. So you can focus on the task at hand, actually playing your character. So now, thanks to the miracle of video editing and post-processing, I wanted to show you some of the changes we've made to the combat system. And you can see on the screen right now, I have a commander running to the left, and I actually am stopping right where I'm standing. But there's two unfriendly people running jogging in the opposite direction. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hop into our little aiming system. And what I want to draw attention to is on the left. We've done some updating to the gun sight just to clean up the look and feel. We placed all the things associated with aiming on the left, and all the things associated with shooting are on the right. I still need to recenter the buttons after making the adjustment, but that'll happen. But an important thing to see here is this thing called maximum aim. So right now it's saying the most I can aim at this target is a half second. Now, in this case, the target's really close, so I can still definitely hit. You can see at that distance you would expect it. But if I look at this farther target, you'll see the maximum aim here is actually much longer. So what is going on is we added a system to basically penalize aiming at moving targets. And the reason for this is we didn't want the game to become effectively a camping simulator where you basically sit in cover and try to pick off other things in cover. We want characters to move around. And in the real world, this works the same way. If you're shooting at a target, if the target is not moving, it's a whole lot easier to hit that target than if it's moving at all. And obviously the faster it's moving, and the faster, more specifically, the faster it's moving across your field of view and effectively how fast you have to track it, it becomes progressively harder to hit. And so we simulate that in a couple ways. One is we penalize the maximum accuracy against a moving target, but the other is we're capping the amount of time you can spend aiming. The faster the target is moving relative to your view angle, the greater that penalty will be. So I will unpause it just for a second. And so now this character here is actually reaching what would be the fastest point, because now they're moving literally perpendicular to the field of view of the character. And you can see the maximum aim time has dropped even further. And at that moment, it's actually a difficult shot. Now, if I let them run a little further away, so now they would be angling less relative to the character, you can see the maximum aim time starting to creep back up. So this will effectively make you harder to hit if you're moving, and the faster you're moving, the harder you will be to hit. The exception to that is if you see a hostile, if you run straight at them, you effectively aren't going to cause them any difficulty because you're not moving left or right in their field of view, you're just getting bigger. And so that won't help. You have to actually be moving across your attacker's field of view in order to generate that penalty. And the faster you can move across it, the greater the penalty you'll make. One of the other things I wanted to highlight is our new status screen for the characters. And you can see that in the video now. We actually are showing on the 3D model, this is the current pose in game, but we're recording the location of the injuries the character suffers. And in this case, there is a little bit of luck because you can see the near miss up top, or it may have been recorded as just a very minor graze. We're still tracking a few issues with bounding boxes. But in this case, there's going to be some recovery time. So I'll finish this mission out and head back to base. And pause it here. And I'll cut out some of the time for getting to the escape vehicle. Okay, so the mission is finished, and you can see a lot of the statistics. In this case, I was intentionally trying to kind of not do the mission as well as we could have, so you could see how the damage and recovery worked. That's the reason for firing so many shots and missing as much as we did. On more difficult missions, that will happen without any intention of making it happen. So I'll exit. That'll take us back to the base. And now I'm going to run over to our status table. So one of the other things we'll be doing is if your commander is seriously injured on a mission and isn't functional when you get back to base, you'll be given the chance, assuming anyone else is available and not everyone is injured or dead, you'll be given the chance to appoint an acting commander. So while your primary character is recovering, you'll be playing one of the NPCs as a temporary party lead. So you can see the commander shown as wounded and available. This will actually say not available once I get around to it. So I'm going to advance a couple days here. And you can see it looked like it was about a week of time back to healthy, and then you can go back on missions. The amount of time it takes depends on the injury sustained. As you saw in the image there, there was probably at least one broken bone. Those take a while to heal. Nothing you can do about that. But there'll be some variability in the injury, in the healing time, depending on the specific types of injuries. And with that, I think I'm going to transition and answer a few questions we had online as we try to do every couple weeks. So I'm going to hop back into the editor and I'll answer some questions. Okay, I'm back at the base, and the reason I go into the editor to answer the questions is so I'm not running full screen and can actually see the list of questions. So the first question we had is, will the enemies have first aid kits to heal themselves? And the answer to this is, it depends. Most of the enemies will not. When you're engaging things like thugs in the street or someone in a nightclub, typically you don't have a first aid kit with you. And in general, the impact of a first aid kit in Spy DNA will be different than in traditional video games. The reason being is we're doing a real simulation, and first aid doesn't actually heal a human being when you apply it. It basically just is designed to get them to more serious medical care without dying. And so we will simulate that effect in the game. Basically, you're trying to stop the bleeding, make sure the character doesn't die, but you're not going to see what you see in so many games, which is the character's on the edge of death, they whip out the medical kit, they apply it, and 1 second later they're as if nothing had happened to them. That's not how it works in the real world, and we're doing a simulation, so that won't be how it works in-game either. So the question was, will you be able to drop an item that's equipped instead of putting it away into your inventory? And the purpose of this would be to save time, because putting an item away into your inventory takes some amount of time, and dropping it should theoretically take almost none. And so, yes, we are planning to implement that. It's not there yet, but it is something that will appear while we're in early access. So next question, how will the game be paused? And I'm going to start here just for a second and demonstrate some of that. So at the bottom of our HUD, you see 4 buttons, and we'll be able to add additional settings if needed later. Right now, by default, you will automatically pause, or the game will automatically pause if you have a new enemy contact. And by default, we don't pause on any general contact, meaning friendly, neutral, but you can toggle that on if you want, or you can toggle them both off. But we also will be implementing, they're just not there yet, pauses for an attack on one of your characters or an injury to one of your characters, in case you want to do anything specific to react to those events. So yes, you will have control, and we're trying to put those controls in as convenient a place as we can. I know a lot of games like to hide these things in the settings. We're putting them on the HUD because it is fairly integral to the gameplay in a game like this, of making sure things stop when certain things interesting to you occur. And being able to change what's interesting to you should just be something that is easily accessible in the UI. So the next question is, what about familiarity with weapons? If I look at our skill system here, you'll see right now we don't have familiarity built in. This is something that we have planned. We actually have a fairly good idea what we want to do in this regard, and it will be implemented. The way it will be implemented is it will be a bonus skill level when you're using a weapon that you are familiar with. So for example, in this case you see a fairly low pistol skills. I think this is the default character with really poor attributes before you've gone through character creation. So you have a skill of 20 in this case, and if you kept using the same pistol again and again, this is the pistol skill, whichever pistol you're using would accumulate a bonus to that skill. And so it may be +4, +10. I don't know exactly what magnitude it'll end up. And as long as you're using that same pistol, you'll maintain it. If you switch to using something else, those familiarities will degrade over time. It'll be something we update on a daily basis in game time. But I don't expect them to fade rapidly. So it's one of those things where if you didn't touch it for, say, 2 months of game time, you might see a small drop-off, but it's not going to be extraordinarily rapid. So you'll be able to be familiar with multiple weapons at the same time without the old ones atrophying so rapidly that they effectively become of no value. And the last question I'm going to cover is what about dialogue choices? When you talk to an NPC in the videos we were showing, and I'm not sure if this particular one will have, it doesn't look like it does. They were showing which skill check was being used for which answer. That is something we'll make as a setting. We obviously have all that information, and I understand a lot of people want to know what skill or which attribute is going to be checked if they click a dialogue option, while others want the flow to be organic and just want to figure it out for themselves. That will be part of the difficulty settings, but it's not. I've started working on the difficulty settings screen, but it's not in the current builds. So the last thing I wanted to talk about is our plans for an updated demo. So we're working on our way towards early access, and we're making rapid progress. And we're actually right now at a very good point where most of the core of the gameplay that we want for early access is all in place. And for us, that's a very big milestone. But what is not yet in place is a lot of the content, meaning missions. And so we're working on the missions, but for us, the distinction between a demo and early access was always the amount of content that would come with the game. And so what we're considering doing is, as the gameplay is getting close to what will be in the early part of early access, it's all there. We're thinking of doing another demo build with the new UI framework and all the little fixes that we've done to, for instance, shooting and moving targets, the new status screens. So anyone who wants to know what's going to be in early access can get a more up-to-date demo of that. But that will be cut before we start adding all the missions that will be part of early access. So odds are, if we do this, it will ship with the same missions or possibly one additional mission from what the last demo build had. And that way everyone can see the progress we're making and get a good idea of what actually is going into early access in terms of gameplay. And with that, thanks to everyone for listening. This is Jason with ShySnake talking about SpyDNA. Feel free to check out our website, spydna.com or shysnake.com, and have a look at the game and get any of the demo builds if you're interested. Take care. Thanks. Bye.